Welcome to this QuickBooks video. This is another in our series that we're calling Searching for Profits. We're going to look at another QuickBooks feature that is the job feature. But I don't want you to think of it as jobs. I want you to think of it as projects. So these are all ways, if you've seen the other videos, all ways that you can slice up your QuickBooks company file data into smaller pieces to find those parts of your business that are working well and those that perhaps are not as profitable or maybe even losing money. So the job feature in QuickBooks was originally designed for contractors, plumbers, electricians, framers, and so forth. But you can use it in other ways. Architects have projects, engineers have projects, and you can be even more creative. If a farmer in agriculture may have multiple fields, those can be projects for each year, can be a different project for each field. A renter with multiple rentals may use the job feature in QuickBooks for each of the different rentals that they have. So think about your business. If you can divide it up into projects that you're doing for your customers, then you can use this feature in QuickBooks. Now, the first step is to create a customer job. So we're still using the sample company file that's been coming with QuickBooks for a couple of decades or so, Rockcastle Construction. And we're going to add a new customer. I'm going to call them AA John Doe. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because the customer list, of course, is alphabetical. And so I want our new customer at the top of that list. All right. That's really all I need. So I click OK, and there we go. AA John Doe is going to show at the top of our customer list. Now, the next step, so he's a customer just like any other customer. How are we going to set up a project for John Doe? Well, we're going to come up here to New Customer and Job. We're going to click on Add Job. And what are we doing? We're our front yard landscape. How's that? Okay, that's really all I need. There is more information I could fill out. If you're using project, you can take a look at this yourself and see if some of these things are useful for you, but you can have job types, you can have the status, it's pending, we've gotten the job, it's in progress, it's closed, and so forth. Start date, end date, you can use all of those things if you like to track jobs. But let's just look at the basics of how this works and see if this is going to help you. Okay, so there are several keys to using this feature, and one of those is going to be to always use it in transactions. So let's just look at the write checks window here. And you may have noticed before there's this customer job column, I guess, in the stub portion of the check. This is where we want to designate that a particular expense that we're creating here is for a particular project, like that. You will find that that column is also in other transactions. How about enter bill? So if I'm using accounts payable, I'm entering bills, there's the customer job column right there. And then the other thing I would say is when you go to invoice the customer at the end of the project, or even you may be doing multiple invoices during the project, but you always use the name of the project here rather than the customer name. Okay, you see how that works there? All that's important in order to get the reports that you want on how you did on this particular project. So something else that's important when you're using this feature in QuickBooks is that you notice here on the stub portion of the check, and you'll find this on credit card charge, transaction windows, bills, and so forth, you'll find it as well. And that is that there's two tabs here. One is for expenses, and that's the one that's most commonly used. And we can access our expense accounts from the chart of accounts here, and that's how a lot of people will record their transactions in QuickBooks. But if we're using projects, we're far better off if we use the Items tab. And you're going to see why in just a couple of minutes. It has to do with reporting. So in order to use the Items tab, then we have to have the items, right, that we want to use. So let's go ahead and close down here, and then let's go to our items list and see what we've got. All right, so let's go to our items list. And all these items come with the sample file and have to do with the sample construction business. And we're kind of deviating from that just a little bit. We're making this a landscaping business. So let's make some new items for ourselves. Going to create a new item. And I'm going to make all of these service items. We don't have inventory in this business. We're not stocking the plants or the irrigation supplies and so forth. So we're going to have a service type item. Let's call this one plants. I'm going to make it real simple. We would probably have like multiple sizes and so forth, but let's just call it plants. And in the description, again, I'm just going to keep it simple for the video. We'll call that plants. Now, there's an important thing here that I want you to pay attention to, and that is this checkbox right here. The description is this service is used in assemblies or is performed by a subcontractor or partner. That really doesn't tell you much about what it is. What this does, if you click that checkbox, it adds this section to the item setup right here. What it does is it gives you a purchase side and a sales side so that you can use this item both as expense and also as something to sell on invoices. QuickBooks knows if you're using an invoice to post to the income account over here. It knows if you use this item on a check or a bill, post to the expense account here. All right, so I see that the plant description did not get into the purchase side. So I'm going to put that. I'm not going to put a standard cost. This is going to be different for every plant that we buy. I do need to set the expense account though. And I want that to be a cost of goods sold type of account. I'm going to use job materials, okay? On the income side, not going to put a sales price in. All the plants are going to be different. I'm going to just set the account here, and that's going to be materials income. That's it. It is important to have that two-sided item. You're going to be really disappointed in the way this works if you don't have that. So just go ahead and check that checkbox, set up both sides, and then let's see how that works. Okay, I actually set up a couple of other items as well, so we'll have a little variety as we get to the end of our project. Let's create a couple of expenses for the project that we're working on here. So I'm going to start with a check. Let's use oops. I need to get all the way down here to my vendor. There we go. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. AAA Nursery. Okay, so AAA Nursery is a vendor that I added, and we bought $250 worth of plants from them. So top part of the check is pretty normal, but here, where I tell QuickBooks how to post this transaction, this is what I was talking about. I don't want to use the expenses tab. I want to use the items tab. And I'm going to use my item plants. Okay, and the cost is the $253.23. and the job is for the front yard landscape job for John Doe. I have to get it. So I have to use item. I have to get this information into the column. Otherwise, this feature isn't going to work for me. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to add a couple more transactions. Well, what about labor? If I'm doing payroll in QuickBooks, it's pretty easy to track that expense as well. So I'm going to go to enter time, use weekly timesheet. Greg Snyder is the employee I'm going to be using here. Here's my job or project name. Here's what he's doing. Again, this is just another item that I set up. So landscaping labor, and he's working on that 8 hours on Monday, another 8 hours on Tuesday, let's say another 8 on Wednesday, and 4 on Thursday. So we put in a total of 28 hours on that small landscaping job. Now, this doesn't add anything to my job expense at this point because all I'm doing is entering time. But after the paycheck is created for Greg Snyder, then those dollars are going to be on my reports showing as an expense to this John Doe landscaping project. I created a paycheck for Greg Snyder for those hours that he worked on the landscaping project, just to try to keep this video to as short as possible. So we have that expense in the system. All of our expenses now have been posted to the landscaping job. So we're done. It's time to invoice the customer. And when I create the invoice, again, I'm going to use the job or the project name. Okay. And then I'm just going to come right down here and start adding the items. So we told the customer, you know what, it was going to be $1,000 for plants. Sprinkler parts were going to be $750. And landscaping labor did not have a description on that, I see. That was going to be $1,000. You don't have to break it up this way. You could do jobs over projects, just one lump sum for the entire project. There's a lot of flexibility here. I'm only showing you the basics of how this feature works. I think this invoice, the way we've got it, I think that's going to do it. So save and close. So now what does that do for us? How does that help us out? Well, if we were doing a number of projects, we'd like an easy way to see which ones are profitable and which ones maybe are not profitable at all or less so. To find that out, I'm going to go to Reports, Jobs, Time, and Mileage, Job Profitability Detail, and you can see there's a whole list of other reports I can look at. Then I'm going to tell QuickBooks which project I want to look at, and that's John Doe's front yard. And there it is. So the actual cost, and each of these are multiple transactions. So for landscaping labor, that's Greg's paycheck. We had $547, and we invoiced the customer for $1,000. For the sprinkler parts, the total of all the transactions for sprinkler parts was $584.79. We charged the customer $750, and plants, you can see those numbers as well. So was the job profitable? Well, we have total cost of about $1,972, and we invoiced the customer $2,750. Yes, that's a pretty profitable project. So again, purpose is we can look at a profit and loss report, which may contain hundreds of transactions, and we may look at the profitability of our business in that way. But if we really want to drill down and we want to see what parts are working well and what parts are not working so well, then we need a way to look at smaller chunks of data to see what's working and what's not. We've talked about cost of goods sold versus expense. That was in the first video, direct cost versus indirect. The second video was using location or division, and this one is trying to divide up what you're doing for your customer in projects. So I hope that's helpful. This is a really big feature. We may do a little bit more of this later on. That gives you enough to take a look at it and see if this will help you in your business. Thanks for watching.